Not often do we see the world of video games and television combined. In the past, we've had interactive movies before, like Black Mirror Bandersnatch, where via your TV remote, you were able to influence the main character's choices. Kind of like those YouTube annotation games, if you guys remember them. We've also seen movie tie-in games, which were usually cheaply done and only loosely based on the story of the movie. But what if a video game existed where you were able to seamlessly jump into the action, going from the moving image into a video game? This is the question that Amazon wants to answer with the Grand Tour game. The Grand Tour game was released in 2019 by Amazon Game Studio Seattle, now known as Relentless Studio, and with later help by Heavy Iron Studios. The concept of the game is truly incredible. The episodes of the show play out almost in their entirety, with segments of the show that you can control yourself. We have episode 1 of season 1 and 2, as well as the entirety of season 3, with the first and second season being touted as bonus levels. Each episode of the game would be released at the same time as the episode. I actually owned this game when it was first released, and I remember patiently waiting each week for the new episode, then in the morning watching the show, and afterwards jumping onto the PS4 and playing the episode. And while watching the show, I had all these crazy ideas how the developers could have implemented the show into the game, and being able to take control of Clarksons, Hammonds and Mace cars and driving them myself. Unfortunately, the execution was not as sound as the concept, to put it lightly. For this review, I have played through the Series 1 and 2 stages, and my favourite episodes of Series 3, the Columbia Special and A Funeral for a Ford. So let's take a look. The first episode of Season 1, we get this grand opening for the show, where on a motorway in California, Clarkson meets up with the gang. It's a really nice way to open the show, since at that point, it's been quite a while since the three were in Top Gear, so seeing them return together and waving hello was nice. And then, boom, we get straight into the action, getting to be a part of that scene, driving Clarkson's Mustang on the road. Then we get to the Rabbit Dry Lake, at a festival full of people. Now imagine how cool it would be to be able to drive through that, and be able to get out of your car, meet the people, and get on stage. Nope, unfortunately, for the next 10 minutes there is no gameplay in sight. Skipping a bit further on, this episode involves the gang testing 3 hybrid supercars to see which one is the best. And this episode truly shows the worst of what this game offers, since over and over again, we play the exact same track. The developers try to spice things up with different challenges that you have to do, like a drifting event or a fizz event where you have to build up a meter by driving and not going off course. But ultimately, it's not very attention grabbing, and the part that's supposed to make this game feel special makes it feel like a chore instead. Furthermore, what doesn't help is the fact that the driving physics are horrendous, being one of the worst handling racing games I've played in a long time. Don't get me wrong, my recording setup does introduce a bit of latency, but the game just doesn't feel responsive, which is why you see me crashing into the wall so much. I think the drifting was added to mitigate this, but at the same time, when this game is all about beautiful, special cars, when they all feel the same to control and are this unresponsive, it again feels like a chore. What's the point of getting excited to drive a brand new supercar or a vintage Cortina when they both drive the same? This game would have massively benefited from having a more realistic driving style, as opposed to this arcade affair, but whatever. Speaking of the arcade, races in this game also feature power-ups, with things such as speed boosts and distractions for the other drivers. Again, why should a game made for car enthusiasts have elements of Mario Kart? It seems incredibly out of touch. Anyway, let's skip forward a bit in the episode, to where Clarkson introduces the Ebolodrome. This is regarding the third-party Assetto Corsa map. This is the only game that you're able to play this track in, so once again it feels pretty special, getting to drive the track that you see in the show. Just like how it was special to drive around the Top Gear track in Forza Motorsport 4, for example. However, once again, you are forced to drive this track 3 separate times, and with every episode where the crew tests a new car, you have to drive the same track again and again. Afterwards, we get back to the same race course as before, doing the same race for what has to be the 7th time. Each episode in the game lasts between half an hour to an hour, as things such as a lot of the tent segments were cut down or removed entirely. However, as you can see, a lot of the time in this game is spent watching the show, with very little time actually playing it. The first episode of the second season is more or less the same. We have the same race multiple times around the Switzerland track, then do a hill climb a few times. There are only 3 levels in this entire episode, so again, you spend most of the time just watching. While you can forgive the repetitive nature of the first episode of the game for working with what was given to them by the show, this episode upsets me for numerous reasons. The developers could have created one very long Switzerland track, and for the 5 gameplay segments, place you at different parts of the track to at least give you the illusion that you and the presenters are actually driving forward. But the second reason I am upset is that, while the game's world vaguely represents where the presenters are, the worlds never really match to what you see in the TV show, which along the first point, makes the switch from video to game very jarring. I can only presume that the devs were allowed to see the episodes during development, so I wonder why they didn't make the levels more closely resemble the roads that Hammond, May and Clarkson were driving. Plus, sometimes the switching point feels disjointed too. Here it would be a perfect switch into gameplay. But nope, an animation where a virtual car is doing the same thing plays. And of course it doesn't match up to where the car was in the show. While the Lumberyard engine, now known as the Open 3D engine, is great visually, with a lot of beautiful fast scenery and nice lighting, there is weird scaling of objects in the world, and with the post-processing, the game is rather blurry, and in a way I can't describe. The cars look like they belong in a mobile game. So I touched on the fact that the game's levels and what's in the show feels disjointed, and on the repetition of levels within each episode. So let's get to my final gripe of the game, which I already lightly touched on, and that's the fact that I can only play snippets of each level. Despite being a car show, there's a lot of what the gang does that isn't related to driving around. Take the Colombia special, where the task is to take photographs of exotic animals. How do the developers implement this? By giving you a single JPEG that you have to line up your camera towards to take a picture, instead of, let's say, getting out of the car, going into first person mode, and taking a picture of the animal. Nope, they just went for the lazy route. And things like that just persist throughout the game. The fourth special, for example, the developers had no clue what to do, making us take random pictures of cars and even doing a puzzle. And what's even more egregious is the fact that a lot of levels from prior episodes repeat, even in parts of the world that don't make any sense. In fact, the further down the list we go, the more they reuse the same maps. Okay, look, I have said a lot of negative things about this game, but I reckon that a lot of what's wrong with it is purely due to time crunch. We don't know how far in advance the developers were able to see each episode. They needed another studio to help them out halfway through the process, and each episode takes place somewhere completely different. Video games are not a quick process, and I bet behind the scenes, a lot of work went behind making sure that things aren't late, which is also probably why the later episodes reuse levels and have a lot of fillers. If this concept was ever to be revisited, Amazon should pick the best, meatiest episodes from the show and make a whole game around it. But I don't think that will ever happen. This game would have been a financial sinkhole for Amazon. Before COVID and Bezos' divorce, Amazon was known for spending a lot of money on a variety of completely different divisions to see which are profitable. In the game, we get an incredibly large amount of cars that we can drive, which would have not only cost a lot to license, but also a lot of time to model into the game. Some cars didn't make it, either being omitted entirely or covered up by a tab, but still we get the main cars from each episode. Plus, Amazon essentially gave away the third episode for free, as you didn't have to pay for an Amazon Prime subscription if you didn't want to, since all the episodes are there, albeit in a slightly cut down form. Now Amazon has canned the video game department, as well as the other non-profit making divisions like Deep Preview, and Alexa's future being in the unknown. Only a massive company like Amazon would have the funds to allow something like this to happen, hence why a lot of movie and TV show tie-in games are typically cheap and devoid of any real creativity. So you have to give Relentless Studio credit for the work that they've done. As for the game, it was taken down in 2020, so the developers could focus their efforts on other projects, which incidentally all got canned anyway. So I think it was just PR talk for what I just mentioned. Plus Amazon probably didn't want to renew licensing for music and the cars. This ultimately means that there is no way to play this game if you haven't purchased it previously. And while this game isn't the Fight Club of video games, I do still think it's a shame, because it was a concept that I think everyone should get to experience, because even if the execution was poor, we may never get a game quite like this one.